Russia has been attempting an advance through Bakhmut since May 7th when Popasna fell. It was one of their main goals to achieve and one of the main parts of their plan to capture the Donbass. However, they are still fighting in the city today and have made minuscule progress so far. But why? Obviously the defense is really strong, but there are many other reasons that range from great geography to an underground political battle in the Kremlin with the current defense minister sabotaging the main troops attacking the city. Let's get into this. The Ukrainians' defense in Bakhmut is incredible. Ever since Wagner took Popasna, Ukraine slowed them down to on average 85 meters a day since they've only moved 20 kilometers since May 7th. You can see on this map that I made how slow the progress has been. The red line was approximately the situation at the end of April. Orange is May, yellow is June, light blue is July through September, deep blue is the end of October, and purple was the end of November, and black is the current front line. Russia has been close to the city multiple times, and the Ukrainians have counterattacked them to positions they held a couple months ago. There's no real explanation for this other than bravery and masterful defense. Geography also plays a big role in this. There are a lot of reverse slopes where Ukrainians can hide their artillery without having the Russians counterfire. The Bakhmutovka River was also where the Ukrainians stopped the Russian military for a while. It also helps that there's an industrial region on the outskirts of the city where the Ukrainians can set up layered defense. The towns of Soledar and Bakhmutske to the north are very well fortified. They have rivers running through them to make breakthroughs even less likely. Soledar especially has been turned into a fortress. Russia hasn't made any progress in it for 6 months. Even though Wagner took over Yakovlivka, the north of Soledar is ready to defend from any sort of assault. Wagner is the main group assaulting Bakhmut, and ever since the invasion started, there's been a battle going on inside of Russia. After the surprising failure of the Russian armed forces, many people have been trying to gain influence inside the Kremlin. One of these people is the head of the Wagner group, Prigozhin. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu is worried about Prigozhin because if Shoigu keeps failing and Wagner makes gains, he thinks he may be replaced by Prigozhin as defense minister. And he is rightfully worried. Prigozhin has been saying things that would get normal people sent to jail. He openly criticizes the Russian army and the people in charge, and Putin so far hasn't cared. However, this rivalry is leading to a stagnation in progress around Bakhmut. Since Wagner is a mercenary group, it doesn't have the same level of supplies and equipment as the professional Russian army does, so they are generally less effective than the typical Russian army. However, Shoigu is fine with this. He's fine with letting Prigozhin send thousands of untrained criminals to their death in the fortress that is Bakhmut, because the less progress Prigozhin makes, the better he's able to hold on to his job. However, for Prigozhin, Bakhmut is the ultimate goal, because it would be the biggest city that Russia's captured for at least 5 months. And if Putin sees pictures of Wagner mercenaries inside of the city center, Shoigu's position becomes incredibly tenuous, so it is absolutely in Shoigu's best interest to not help the forces attacking Bakhmut right now. The whole situation boils down to a battle for influence that overall leads to a stagnation in progress because both sides are actively trying to prevent each other from gaining the upper hand while they're supposed to be on the same side. Many people say that Bakhmut has no strategic value, but that's not true. If Russia can capture Bakhmut and the outskirts, they can finally use the T-1302 highway from Severodonetsk. This will centralize Russian supply routes and make them much more effective. Bakhmut is also a big logistics hub for Ukraine. They use the roads marked in yellow to get supplies all around the front, but they are redundant and they aren't the only ones Ukraine can use for it. The light blue roads are also usable and currently being used, but removing Bakhmut gets rid of the centralization that makes supply effective in this area. There's also no other big settlements that Ukraine can set up proper defenses in until they reach Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. That doesn't mean they can't set up good defenses, but it will just be easier to envelop these settlements and force breakthroughs. If Russian artillery is inside of Bakhmut itself, they can also hit Sloviansk and Kramatorsk from this direction for the first time, and it's going to be a big pain to the Ukrainians. Also, capturing Bakhmut gives them a big launching pad to continue offensives deeper into Donetsk. It could also allow them to flank Toretsk and New York from the north. However, this is kind of a stretch considering the current speed of advance. Now, we'll end this off with some good news. The ISW has compared Bakhmut to the Kherson front in August, where the Russians were using their last bits of energy to conduct assaults to force a breakthrough, but it never happened. They have begun attacking positions in Bakhmut with squad-sized groups, about 10 to 15 men, which is what they did at this point in the Kherson offensive. After that, the Russians were forced on the defensive and eventually retreated later. Shelling has decreased massively, and the pressure has overall been lightening on Bakhmut. A quote from their article they put out yesterday says, ISW assessed that at the time of the Russian military's use of squad-sized groups in the Kherson Oblast indicated that the Russian offensive had culminated, as Russian ground forces were degraded so badly that they could no longer operate elements at echelons high enough to make meaningful gains. also adding, and there may not be any advances at all unless significant reinforcements arrive. Overall, it seems like Russia and Wagner may have bled themselves dry on this city, and the evidence is just starting to come in now. When this happened in the Kherson front, Russia was forced on the defensive, and the Ukrainians were able to do counteroffensives and eventually push them out of the Kherson region itself. However, this was mostly because of the Dnipro River and doing cross-river logistics, but it just shows you that the direction that this could be going in. There probably won't be any kind of large-scale collapse or retreat back from Bakhmut. It will likely be like the Kherson front with Mykolaiv, where Russia kept Kherson and still shelled Mykolaiv, but never tried to do an actual attack towards it after they failed. My guess is that Ukraine will probably retake some of the border settlements near Pokrovskoye, or push them back to Pokrovskoye itself, and the Russian defense is going to try to hold Popasna as much as possible and occasionally shell Bakhmut. And considering Russia's overall goal is to capture the whole Donetsk Oblast, it's unlikely that this would last forever. But this could also be a temporary dwindle in supplies, and the Russians could start attacking Bakhmut again. But that never worked for them in the past. Defense has been holding and is still holding. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Next video will probably be a summary of the Donbass War, and I may put out a second video today because the ISW is reporting some pretty big claims that no one else is reporting, and I'm gonna have to see if they're true. I don't know if I'll put out a second video talking about it, but I just need to see if they're true, because if they are, those are really big claims. Thank you to my channel members Gene Helfrich, Stig Grun, Butler-esque, David Appel, Delo Mathatas, Phil Martin, Robert Jenkins, Richard Quadri, Focus Pocus 100, Gaz B, Evan Shin, Rye Jones, Mr. Walkman, and a special thanks to my third tier members Ashley C137, Joel Raindell, Mike Q, Joe Sauer, PG, JG Bashlow, Maxim Zavershinsky, and Jane Dungu. See you guys later.